Steve Gonzalez spoke to Ashley Banfield and did fill in some of the details around what he'd been told about Kaylee's murder. She was on the top floor with Maddie Mogen, believed to be the main target of the attack. Here it is, shot one.
People so angry at what was happening in that courtroom that they would literally pick up their phone and call us and say, this is what's on Brian's phone. This is what he was searching. This individual was sexually motivated. I don't care what Thompson said.
Coming out of hearings, there would be people who would call you and say, I don't like what's happening in that courtroom. I know what's on his phone. I know. What did you learn from those phone calls without divulging who it was who called?
Just weird porn fetishes, but two of the fetishes were in that room. Drunk, passed out girls and gagging girls. And those are two things that were part of that crime scene. For Thompson to say that there was no sexual assault, of course there wasn't. He didn't have enough time. Somebody came up there.
That was additional color, but he also did talk about how it was clear Kaylee had been beaten. I think that he said her nose had been broken. So clearly there had been some sort of a fight, some sort of an altercation. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I think that hits on exactly what we were discussing last time, is the use of that word, that there's no sexual component. I think that was really inappropriate by the DA, because you can't get into Kohberger's head. And we've heard those rumors consistently that Mr. Gonzalez was just talking about there, that there were porn searches that were found on the computers and phones. And I can tell you, Megyn, 4 years in sexual assault and 17 in homicide, unless they get rid of the computers, there's always porn. There's always something on there, especially when you're dealing with people that are motivated by sexual predation. So I think that was a very poor choice of words by Thompson in the original plea. He didn't repeat that again today, but look, one of the things that he did say, he talked about we didn't reduce the sentences. What did he say? He said, no bargaining about reduced sentences. It's like, dude, you gave him the biggest reduced sentence. You came off death. I mean, I don't know what he was talking about there, unless he's referring to the specific counts. And sorry, again, I don't want to be overly critical here, but that's called pleading to the sheet. That's something that happens in every courtroom every day by prosecutors. There's nothing heroic about that. It's like, you want us to come up the biggest potential sentence in a state that might actually execute him? Of course he's going to plead to the sheet. So that I thought was really, that was designed, that language, I think, was designed for the general public, because there's a lot of lawyers who practice criminal law, I guarantee, across America, that were kind of rolling their eyes a little bit on that. And again, guys got a tough job. There are advantages, certainly, to taking a plea. My Rodney Alcala case, like we talked about, I did the third version of that. It was reversed twice. He was convicted twice, sentenced to death twice. I did the third trial, and it was brutal on the families. All of that stuff is real. But again, we talked about this. I want to know what changed behind the scenes, other than just Kohberger coming and want to make a deal, and it sounds like nothing.
That's it. And Bill Thompson not wanting to try the case. I did find the comment that Steve Gonzalez made to People Magazine. People Magazine wrote up an interview he gave to the Today Show, where he said, he and Christy Gonzalez said the coroner gave the parents a breakdown of the wounds 21-year-old Kaylee suffered. Quote, she had definitely been stabbed multiple times, and they kind of described it as a drowning that can occur. But she did say gagging. Kohberger struck her in the face. Christy Gonzalez added, Kaylee had a broken nose, septal hematomas, asphyxial injuries, and defense wounds on her arms. She was stabbed many, many times. How many, we don't know. And that's where you come in, Howard, where you're saying Steve Gonzalez asked you if you could find out. Like he's relying on you.
They're still trying to find things out. And today they revealed for the first time, at least, that there was perhaps something else in the hands that they used to beat Kaylee. I'd like to hear more about that, but instead we've been told it's time to move on. I think that's wishful thinking.
Here's the sister, Olivia, in a series of questions she posed to Brian Kohberger, directly raising some of these points.
Some of these might be familiar, so sit up straight when I talk to you. How was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your apartment? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this time. Why did you choose my sisters? Before making your move, did you approach my sisters? Do you tell what you were thinking and feeling? Before leaving their home, is there anything else you did? Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words? If you were really smart, do you think you'd be here right now? What's it like needing this much attention just to feel real?
Oh, I mean, as someone who's put these psychopaths in jail, Matt, how do you think that made him feel?
Well, look, every family member, Megyn, winds up landing, anybody that goes through something like this, they initially land somewhere on a spectrum between just supreme grief and supreme anger. And a lot of them will sort of change on that scale over the course of the proceedings and the course of time. I actually really thought that was incredibly powerful for her to do that. And I think that's the purpose of a victim impact statement, because that young woman, Olivia, will be able to go through the rest of her life knowing that he had to sit there and listen. And again, when we're talking about the psychopath, they have no capacity for empathy, but their narcissism is off the charts. So to have as you pointed out, Megyn, a very attractive young woman, Olivia, speak to him like that in a setting where he had to sit and listen to him, that stung, because that will impact his sense of grandiosity. And she really just laid him low. I mean, I was cheering for her as she was doing that, taking notes. That was awesome. And I think that if there's anything when he gets on that bus to go to whatever prison they send him to, that's going to be echoing around in his mind, it's going to be the words of Olivia Gonzalez.
I have to say, I thought it was a courageous act too, because he is a quadruple murderer. And I mean, I just can't continue to think back to his first question when he got arrested, which was, is anyone else in custody? And so, there is at least a question mark lingering over the case about whether somebody helped him in some way. And I just thought that's very brave of her to be so provocative and antagonistic toward who we know is a man who's a quadruple murderer and has zero empathy, and she's a young woman. I mean, that the piece of it, her testimonial is the one that everybody's going to remember. It was extraordinary, but it was important also to have the full panoply of emotion, Phil, because we also saw what this thing did to, for example, Dylan Mortonson. I mean, and Dylan's so interesting. She's one of the two surviving roommates. There was Bethany, who was in the basement, who didn't hear a thing. And then there was Dylan. And Dylan showed up and spoke her statement herself. And she's been at the center of the storm since these murders happened because she saw him. He got into that house, we believe, around 4:12 a.m. He left within 12 to 18 minutes at most later. And he, upon leaving, passed Dylan Mortonson in the hallway. She didn't know what she was seeing. She's the one who described him as wearing some sort of like a balaclava or a mask with bushy eyebrows. Howard pointing out, she later, Vicky Ward reported that she believed Dylan did. He was holding some sort of a vacuum cleaner upon exiting. We've never heard her. She hasn't given an interview. We haven't heard anything from her. She shows up today, and that woman's anguish was palpable. It was a reminder that he took 4 lives, but in some ways he ruined far more than 4. I'm just going to play a soundbite from her, and then you can take it, Phil. Here's part of the Dylan Mortonson impact statement montage. It's SOT 21.
My nervous system never got the message that it is over, and it won't let me forget what he did to them. He is a hollow vessel, something less than human, a body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil. He may have taken so much from me, but he will never get to take my voice. He will never take the memories I had with them. He will never erase the love we shared, the laughs we had, or the way they made me feel seen and whole. Those things are mine. They are sacred, and he will never touch them.
Oh, both she and the other roommate, Phil, testifying that for a year after this happened, they had to sleep in the bed with their parents?
You know, to take someone's life obviously is one of the worst things that you could ever do to someone. But I think you could make the argument that doing to her what Kohberger did to her, it may be even worse, because the people who have passed away, they're not hurting or suffering in the physical sense anymore, but she is, and she's got to carry that with her for the rest of her natural life. And those of us who are parents, like in my case of a soon-to-be college-age child, you know, this is the worst nightmare for any parent. You want what's best for your family. You want what's best for your kids. You want your kids to go out into the world and succeed and to be happy. And that's the most important thing. You want your kids to be happy, but there's no amount of counseling or no therapy that can ever help undo what Kohberger did to her and can make her happy. And so, you know, this all goes back to part of the problem that I have with this plea deal in the first place. We're just left with so many questions that might help some of these people move forward in at least maybe a little bit more satisfactory fashion. The prosecutor had every reason, I think, to go forward with a trial. Not all the questions would have been answered, but a lot of them would. We would not be talking
like how many
necessarily
stab wounds?
About or how many stab wounds, or was he carrying a vacuum cleaner? We would know the answers to a lot of this if there had been a trial. And maybe in the weeks and months and years to come, maybe the families will be provided with the evidence that they didn't see at the trial that didn't happen, and maybe they'll be able to provide it to the public. Maybe journalists will be able to get their hands on some of this stuff now that the gag order has been released. But remember, it's still all in the possession, custody, and control of the prosecution, and it's really going to be up to them how to get this information out into the public if they're willing to do it at all. And I think they probably have some things that they just, to protect themselves, they don't want the public to find out about. I think that there was some hesitancy about the prosecution. That's the nicest word I can think of right now, some hesitancy to move forward with the trial. I don't know if it's they didn't feel they were capable or they were somehow scared of going to trial, but they certainly seemed to jump on Kohberger's really the one that made the offer and say, look, I'll plead guilty if you take death off the table. And it's almost like Kohberger's team is making the plea offer and the prosecutor accepting his terms. And so, they
prosecution
jumped
was
at that
relieved
pretty quickly. Yeah, they act like they're the ones that made some kind of plea deal. I see it the other way around. I see Kohberger made the plea deal and the prosecutor accepted that.
You're so right. Go ahead, Howard.
That's exactly right. I mean, and for the prosecution, for Bill Thompson to talk about, we'll move on, the door is closed, the judge said that. Well, we all heard Dylan Mortonson's statements. No one is moving on. This is going to linger forever. And only thing that's going to happen is the possibility of getting answers to specific questions. Well, that's going to be a lot harder now. I think the families and the citizens of Idaho and the public have been disserved by what was done in the courtroom today.
Now was the time. It's creepy in the movie that I keep referencing, One Night in Idaho. They have a very interesting segment with the women who ran one of these public chat groups about the murders. These two women run multiple true crime blogs, and they added this one after the murders. And this was the forum into which Papa Roger appeared, posting his theories about the crime. It's clearly Brian Kohberger. And they walk you through his posts, which really kind of gave up the game. First of all, the photo, like the sort of icon that's used to represent Papa Roger, looks just like Brian Kohberger. I mean, identical. And second of all, his posts know way more than any civilian who didn't commit this crime should have known long prior to the release of that police affidavit, which had the details of the crime. I mean, he was already speculating about, he knew it was a knife. He speculated that they found the knife sheath. He asked some of those same weird questions that he asked in that questionnaire. He wanted to know, what do you think was in the mind of the killer when he walked into the room? They were it was more than I'd ever heard from the Papa Roger account as these two women who ran it went through his questioning. And then as soon as Brian Kohberger was arrested, dried up. Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they're moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your own personal savings to worry about. And one of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold, like from Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. OMG. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by buying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is high, and Birch Gold makes owning physical gold extremely easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898 and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.